Welcome back to another season edition of the Big Ten Quick Talk podcast. In today's video, we will be breaking down all of week 2 in the Big Ten Conference. There were some really exciting games. I want to share my uncut, raw, unbiased takes. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to start out with the blowouts and the games that really weren't as exciting as others. You have Minnesota beating Rhode Island 48 to nothing. In this game, Minnesota was only winning at the half at the end of the first quarter, 10 to nothing. Little bit shaky there to begin, but then Minnesota and Darius Taylor went off. Max Brosmer went for 270 yards. Minnesota did great. Took a little bit of time to adjust, but they ended up pulling a win out, their first one of the season. Rutgers beat Akron 49 to 17. Rutgers, again, going to be a really good team this year. Washington beat Eastern Michigan. Again, we don't really need to spend too much time on this. Ohio State beat Western Michigan. Ohio State, man, no surprise, they're going to be really good. USC blew out Utah State. Indiana blew out Western Illinois. Indiana, good nugget here. The most points they've ever scored in a game, 77, in their history. Pretty sure. And I think that's it for that type of game. So let's move on to the more exciting ones. All right, moving to the games that I want to talk about the most. We'll start with Texas walloping Michigan 31 to 12. I'm going to take this from a Michigan angle since I do run the Big Ten Quick Talk podcast, not the SEC one. Not that there is one. From Michigan's point of view, Davis Warren is not a good quarterback. Let's face it. Throw Alex Orji out there. I don't care. Alex Orji can't not do worse than Davis Warren did a couple days ago on Saturday. Davis Warren is not a good quarterback. This is not the right system for him, and I have something to say on the system in a minute, but it's just nothing's jiving well with Davis Warren. So you have to switch it up at this point. At this point, Michigan's season, I'm not going to say it's largely over, but it doesn't look great. You have Arkansas State at home next week. Give Alex Orji the starting job and just see how he does. You're going to beat Arkansas State either way, even if he plays terrible. Just see how he does. Use Arkansas State as an audition. Donovan Edwards, in my opinion, is the wrong type of back for this system. Donovan Edwards, in my opinion, is a really, really good Dylan Edwards, who's at Kansas State right now. More of a scat back. He running between the tackles. Donovan Edwards, he's good at it. He's not great at it. He's way better in space. He's way better when he gets the ball and he has yardage and he can make a man miss. And Michigan is trying to run him like they ran Blake Corum last year. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, the reason that they were so good is because they were two different backs. Y'all know what I'm saying? And this receiving core, it's just not good. It's just not good. Samaj Morgan, he's fine. But your leading receiver, not tight end, Colson Loveland led the team in yards. But Samaj Morgan, the leading wide receiver on the team, had 45 yards on 5 receptions. It's just not going to cut it. And the defense, the secondary doesn't, it looks, I get it that it is Texas and they are the number 3 team in the nation, but the secondary looks shaky. The defensive line couldn't get stops when they needed to. The linebackers look slow and can't cover. Again, just all observations from this game. Okay, Bowling Green nearly beating Penn State. I didn't watch this one. I'm sorry, Penn State fans, because I was busy watching Game of the Week in Texas, Michigan. But I kept tabs on this game. And, man, this game is interesting for a couple reasons. Why does Penn State defense just took a 180 from shutting down a really, really good West Virginia team to allowing Bowling Green to stay in the game and score 27 on them? So this could mean one of two things. Number one, that the defense is a fraud. Or number two, really it could mean a couple things. Number two, Bowling Green is just that good. Or number three, this is my third option, is that this was just an off game. And I think I'm going to take that route because I don't think Bowling Green is that good on offense. Give them one more shot at Penn State. I don't think they're scoring 27. I don't think they're scoring more than 14 on Penn State's defense. And I also think, I think it was just a little bit of an off game. They came off of a thrilling win that took about 6 hours because of the delay against West Virginia, who is a really, really good team and honestly probably should have been ranked, in my opinion, going into that game. And they still are a very good team. Maybe just a little bit of a hiccup game here, and that's what I'm going to go off of. Drew Aller made the most of what he had there. Besides the one interception, he went 13 for 20 with 205 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nick Singleton went for a $120. Tyler Warren, the tight end, that guy is special at tight end. He might be I think he might be the best one in the whole darn league, if I'm being completely honest. Went for a $150 yards, averaged 18 yards per reception. That's insane. So that's what I have on this game. Just more of an anomaly than anything else. Okay, so now we have Iowa State beating Iowa 20-19. This game was really muddy. It was a gritty type of game. There was a lot of lull in between. Like, there was a whole quarter where it was just not exciting football, and I get it. It is Iowa and Iowa State, but I guess I have to submit myself to that. Caden McNamara was awful in this game, especially in the second half. Didn't even throw for 100 yards, just under at 99. 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. Good thing, though, that he has Caleb Johnson, who went for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. That guy is a beast and probably one of the better ones in the Big Ten, probably top 5 running back in the Big Ten. If I were to grade them, might do that later on. Tell me if you guys want that. But Iowa just looked a little sloppy all around. The defense was real solid up until that last drive when it mattered most. And, they let Rocco Becht hit a wide open receiver twice. 2 busted coverages in a row, setting up a game-winning field goal. Was an impressive field goal. What was it, 54 yards, if I'm not mistaken, by Kyle I'm going to butcher this name, Conrarty. Point being, Iowa State came up clutch and Iowa didn't. You're so used to it being the other way around. Iowa's the team that, takes the benefit of a busted coverage for, 20, 25 yards, setting them up to win the game. Takes advantage of a fumble, takes advantage of anything to get the win. You're so used to that, and when they don't do it, it's weird. It's just weird, in my opinion. Next game, Michigan State beats Maryland 27-24. Aiden Childs, I had high hopes for him. I still do. When he's at the top of his game, he's really, really good. But in the same game, he will also have probably a Jeff Sims-esque type of series. He had 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He went for 363 yards. I mean, the guy oozes talent. But man, the lowest of the low is right there in the same game. He just throws boneheaded interceptions. It's really weird. I might do a whole video just on Aiden Childs. Let me know if you want that. Michigan State receiving, Nick Marsh led the team with just under 200 yards at 194 yards, averaged 24 yards per receptions, which is pretty darn good. And the defense held stout when they needed to. Maryland, I just think it's going to be a tough year. I just think it is. You can't beat Michigan State. It's going to be a tough year. Mind you, I think Michigan State's going to make a bowl game. I still do. As long as Aiden Childs can cut down on the interceptions. The rushing attack has to be better. Roman Hemby had 12 carries for 35 yards, averaging 2.9 yards per carry. It has to be better. His longest rush was a 7-yard rush. Has to be better on the ground. If you're going to play in the Big Ten, you have to have a strong rushing attack. Ty Felton led the team from Maryland in receptions, yards, and he also had a touchdown in that. 11 receptions for 152 yards. And that's really all I have to say about that game. It was a good game all around. Michigan State, a well-deserved win. Next game, Illinois upsets number 19 Kansas by 6 points, 23-17. All around, great effort by Illinois. I didn't know that they had that in them. I honestly didn't know that they had that in them. Illinois, when it's crunch time, came out and delivered. They're 2-0 now. Luke Altmaier did what he needed to do. 0 interceptions, which was the key in this one for me. The rushing attack. This game was kind of sloppy for Illinois on offense. Luke Altmaier didn't pass for 100 yards. Illinois rushing only went up to 79 on the team. Their leading rusher, Caden Fegan, only went for 40 yards. His average was 2.5. So all around it was a rough game, but they managed to do enough. And now they look like a pretty solid team in the Big Ten for beating a Kansas team that going into the year I thought was going to be borderline elite. And I mean, the defense didn't have eye-popping numbers either. Only 1 sack by Xavier Scott. Only 3 TFLs. But it was just, the defense taking the ball away from Jalen Daniels. 3 interceptions thrown by Jalen Daniels. So this game, all around, great effort by Illinois, capitalizing off of interceptions and putting together an all-around solid game, even if they were not as clean in other areas of the field. Oregon barely ekes out a win against Boise State. Again, another game where they are struggling against a non-Power 4 opponent. And Boise State in this one was led by their running back, Ashton Jonty, who went for just below 200 yards, averaged 7 yards on the ground, and was one of the main reasons that Boise State was in this game. Another reason was Oregon kept fumbling the ball. 2 fumbles recovered by Boise State led to scores, one by Dylan Gabriel and the other one by Patrick Herbert. Oregon in this one, again, sloppy, but they keep Dylan Gabriel keeps making great throws and keeping them in games because he is a Heisman caliber quarterback, and Oregon just keeps winning these very close games. What I'm worried about for them in the future is how are they going to do physically against tougher Big Ten opponents. Their physicality has not shown to be worth a darn so far throughout this season. How will that play in the next couple games against Power 5 Big Ten opponents, and especially when they go to play Ohio State, who is probably one of the more physical teams in the entire country, much less the Big Ten. Another very close and surprisingly close game was Duke playing at Northwestern on a Friday night. 2 teams that aren't very good, but made for a pretty nice game overall. Duke won in double overtime, led by Malik Murphy, throwing for 242 yards, 3 touchdowns, leading the way there. And rushing, Star Thomas had 17 attempts for 58 yards, so not very much on the ground in terms of that. When it comes to Northwestern I thought would probably play a little bit better. Mike Wright, probably one of the worst Big Ten quarterbacks, continue to prove my point, throwing for 158 yards only. He did not get sacked, which is a plus if you're Northwestern. If they're going to win games, they have to be led by their running back, Cam Porter. Cam Porter went for 93 yards. Again, not quite enough. He's going to have to get about $150 to win games for Northwestern. Receiving, there's really nothing of note for Northwestern. They're going to play hard-nosed defense, but they need to be more explosive on offense. Bottom line, Northwestern needs to get better at not just running the ball and playing adequately good enough defense. They need to be able to create explosive plays to be able to win games. All right, last game we're going to cover, Nebraska beats Colorado 28-10. The score at half was 28-0. I was surprised that Nebraska did not score more in the second half. The officiating was really bad in the second half, but focusing on the actual game on Nebraska's half, Nebraska played an excellent game. In my opinion, they matched up perfectly with Colorado with what they wanted to do on offense. Play a physical run game style of offense, setting up easy passes for Dylan Raiola to make, and they did exactly that On the ground, they had a total of 150 yards. Dante Dowdell led the way with 74. Ramir Johnson had 33. And Ja'Cory Barney, the wide receiver, had 28, mostly on end arounds and jet sweeps. Dante Dowdell in this game played awesome. 2 touchdowns, was running over people, broke Shiloh Sanders' arm. He was doing everything for the Huskers. And then Dylan Raiola only 185 yards passing, but that's because he didn't need to throw for 300 yards. He didn't need to do anything like that. It was the quick, easy, safe throws that he made, and he did make his fair share of tough throws. Your go routes. They had the bootleg action going, and um, yeah. So and even on defense, though, I think the defense really stepped up against a very good Colorado offense and skill position players. Tommy Hill especially locked down Travis Hunter for the majority of the game when he was on him. Had that pick six when he was covering Travis Hunter, and everyone in this game played really well, even down to Willis McGahee, the redshirt freshman, contributed with a sack and a forced fumble. There, Nash Hutmacher was in there with a sack. Ty Robinson really stole the show with a sack, a forced fumble, a blocked. He blocked a field goal. He tipped a couple passes. He was all over the place. One thing to be concerned about if you're Nebraska is the kicking situation. They did not kick very well at all. But other than that, Nebraska played 4 quarters of physical, smash mouth football and really took it to Colorado, surprising a lot of people in the industry. That's all I've got for today. Subscribe, like, comment your thoughts down below. I'll be coming out with my quick talk poll, which is my version of the top 25, here soon. I'll see y'all in the next one.